Bodo. First up is Big Vic. 6s all round. I mean, the only shot on target they had was the goal that they scored. I think, he got very unlucky with the deflection.
Yeah.
But apart from that, he pretty much had nothing to do.
What I would say is I actually thought his passing was a bit better yesterday. He did some really nice clips out to Udogie and Odobert, and albeit maybe it's because he was under less pressure and he was given that time and space to play the passes. So literally had very little to do. Even the corners, I think, I was looking at the stats, they had one corner, I think, the whole game. So it's hard to rate him too highly or too low because he's just pretty much a spectator for most of it.
Yeah. Pedro Porro up next, him gives him an 8. I gave him a 9. I thought Pedro was brilliant yesterday. Major impact of us winning that game. First goal comes from his cross. The second goal comes from his unbelievable ball over the top to James Maddison. Tried it a couple of times through the game as well. I just thought he was just unbelievable yesterday in terms of his ball playing ability and just causing a threat to the Bodo backline, and as well from a defensive standpoint, very controlled performance out on that right hand side. Didn't go too far up the pitch where he knows he can get caught out sometimes. So I mean, I thought that was probably clear instruction from Ange not to leave too much space in behind him, and he didn't do that.
Yeah, and I think it's also, we know that Porro has that quality to affect the game from deep. He doesn't have to get too far forward to show off his quality delivery, and I think we saw that with the assist for the second goal, playing it over the top, which it seems as though he's getting more and more joy out of that kind of position. Obviously, it was his delivery for the first goal, which led to Richarlison heading it across the face as well. I think his corners as well were causing a bit of trouble, and when he was the one on the delivery, I think it was there. So I think Porro's in brilliant form. He's having a really good late season form, Pedro Porro, and I think this was another really strong showing.
Yeah. Cristian Romero up next, 8s all round for Kuti. What Kuti was doing best yesterday is his ball playing ability was on full show yesterday. I loved it. It was like back to Kuti at his best in that kind of aspect. The goal that we conceded, I think he needs to be doing a bit better from, just sniffing out that danger, which was a bit of frustration. Picks up a silly booking as well. But I thought for the most part, he was playing really well and obviously won the penalty with some brilliant Argentinian shithousery.
Yeah, 100%. And I think he was just very, this is Kuti at his best, getting involved in challenges, disrupting Bodo, being much more kind of the leader in that back line and not making mistakes. And I think he did a great job with that. And I think it was a really, really strong showing. And I think Bodo really struggled when the ball went anywhere near Kuti because he was just gobbling it up and making sure Tottenham were back on the front foot. And anytime Bodo looked like they were going to come into our final third a lot of the time. But obviously, if it wasn't Bentancur or Bissouma blocking it, it was Kuti there to stop him. So really, really strong showing. But yeah, didn't cover himself much glory with the goal, I would say.
Mickey van der Ven, Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. Again, I thought he was defending at a really good level yesterday. There was one really important challenge that he did at the back. There was a couple of times he was getting the ball, trying to drive forward, maybe more in the second half. I expected a bit more from that from Van der Ven, to be honest. It only happened a couple of times during the game, but I felt like nothing really troubled him throughout the game, and he went about his business pretty well. Obviously, the goal that we did concede does come off him.
Was it him or Bentancur? I thought it was Bentancur.
No, it came off Van der Ven.
Okay, it came off Van der Ven. Yeah, I think he was kind of our safety net, which we didn't really need in this game. He was kind of patrolling everything.
The deflection was Bentancur.
It was in or Bentancur?
I thought it was Van der Ven.
That's what I thought. I thought it was Bentancur.
Was it?
Yeah.
Commenter saying Bentancur. Anyway.
Fair enough. Because I don't know what I'm talking about.
But I think, I kind of felt like, he was kind of ready to step in, but he just wasn't that much needed. We had Bentancur and Bissouma patrolling, and then we had Romero being a bulldog in that middle, and he was kind of there if needed, but we never really needed him that much. Not to say he had a bad game or anything, but it was just a quieter game because he wasn't that involved. I think his passing out the back was pretty decent. I
thought everything he did pretty well.
Yeah.
Next up is Destiny Udogie. 8s all round for Udogie, and they couldn't really handle him on that side, the Bodo backline, to be honest. I felt like a number of times he was getting the wrong side of the defender with his brute force and providing a really good attacking outlet out on that left-hand side for us. I would have expected a bit more quality in the final third from him. There was that one moment that really frustrated me where he gets in behind and he takes a stupid shot or a stupid drive across the face. I'm not sure what he was doing when he could just have an easy cutback to a Spurs player, and it's probably going to be 4-0 or 3-0. Was it 4 or 3? It would have been 4-0 at that moment.
Yeah, it would have been 4.
And you're basically tasting Bilbao at that point. So really frustrating, but all in all, I think it just carries on his good form because I thought he was really good.
Yeah, and I think in the Europa League, the last few games, these have really been Bentancur back to his best.
Yeah.
This is really the Bentancur that, that we want to give a new contract to, and the Bentancur that we know. Udogie. I think he's been really, really fantastic in the last few games. I think down that left-hand side, I think they really struggled to deal with him, actually. And when it's kind of like when he decided he was going to go down the left and into the space, they kind of just had to let him go because they couldn't stop him. He was too strong. But unfortunately, some of the decision-making down that left-hand side left a bit to be desired and could have done a bit more with it. But I thought his link up with Tel and Richarlison was really strong, and we're loving Udogie at the moment. I think he's doing really, really well. So I think rightfully in that team for the moment, I think he's got that space at left back, and he's showing everyone why everyone was so excited about him for so long. Because I think people, got on his back for a lot of time because of performances dipping. But these kind of performances remind us this is potentially one of the best left backs in the league when he's in this kind of mood.
I mean, their right back just couldn't handle the physicality of him, could they? I mean, time and time again, when it came into a duel between them two, Udogie was winning every single time. Bentancur up next, 8th all round for Rodrigo. Really top performance, as we've seen in the Europa League, definitely in the quarterfinals as well. He's carried on that. He's just got this kind of presence about him in the middle of the park at the moment in these Europa League games, and this one was no different. He was like a bull in a china shop at times, with his aggressive mentality in the middle of the park. Every single duel, it seemed like he was winning. He was driving the team forward as well, just sitting there in the middle of the park and just gobbling everything up. And where you're going to mark him down a bit, where he doesn't get a 9, is because of the defending that he showed in those two moments. The first one at the end of the first half, and more particularly the one in the second half where he just gets turned into a bit of a pretzel for the goal that they scored, and he needs to be defending a bit better in that moment in time.
Yeah, agreed. And he'll be disappointed with that because we had that situation under control, and all he has to do is just basically not let him inside, and he did, and that was the most disappointing thing. But apart from that, I think it was a phenomenal performance. These are performances that kind of him like it was a few years ago before his injury. This is what we want to see from Bentancur on a more consistent basis, and if he performs like this consistently, then I think no one's going to have a problem with giving him a new contract. I think this is what we want to see from him. So I think he was fantastic. I think off the ball, I think his reading of the game was phenomenal. He was, every time he went in for a challenge, like I think we've seen previously, sometimes he misses his challenges and gets overrun. Maybe it's because Bissouma was a bit close to him and he was in a double pivot rather than a lone 6. But I thought he was just getting there every time and making sure that they're stopping Bodo in their tracks. I think on the ball as well, so much more confident, driving forward, playing the ball forward quickly. Had that unbelievable effort at the end of the first half as well, that volley, which could have been a crackerjack of a goal if it went in. Unfortunately, it was a brilliant save from the keeper. But this is Bentancur back to his best, and he's saving it for the Europa League at the moment, it seems. But hopefully we get to see it more and more often, and at least 2 more times this season, let's say.
Yves Bissouma up next. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. And Bissouma's best performance of the season in a long stretch, to be honest. I thought he was absolutely brilliant, working in tandem with Bentancur, showing that aggressive nature in the middle of the park. And it was their kind of relationship on the pitch on the day that really won us that midfield battle. And like I said before, I really felt like Maddison, Bentancur and Bissouma were just working so well together to dominate that midfield. And you know what? He does such great work to that first goal as well. The strengths that he showed to bounce off that Bodo player, to get it to Pedro Porro, I think he makes that goal as well, and which is no one's really talking about it. Really underrated.
Just bullied him.
Yeah, really underrated. So Bissouma, credit to him, because nobody gave him a chance in hell to start this game. He started and performs really well as well.
Yeah, 100%. And credit, massive credit to him, stepping up when we needed him most in a big game on a big occasion, and finally one of our senior players, acting like a senior player, and that's exactly what he did. And I was really happy for him because he's taken a lot of criticism, but I think in this game he was great. Apart from maybe a few wayward shots, which I think we can overlook. One of them, I think, hitting the second tier. But apart from that, I think really strong showing. And I think him and Bentancur, I think for some reason when they've been together that we just haven't seen a good partnership from them. I don't know why it hasn't worked, but maybe it's because one of them is usually in an 8 rather than a double pivot or whatever it is. But they were in a double pivot yesterday, and I think it worked an absolute treat. Bodo didn't have an answer to it, and I think both of them just dominated really well, but not just on the ball, off the ball, but on the ball as well. A lot better than they've been previously. So really happy for Biss. A good show, good performance.
James Maddison, Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 9. Surely he's got to get more than a 7 for that goal he scored. Like, that goal was sublime. What an unbelievable run. What an unbelievable touch. And what an unbelievable finish as well. First and foremost, I thought that was absolutely brilliant, and obviously sends us 2-0 up before half time. Apart from that, though, I thought, he was dropping deep into the midfield. He was looking like our only real creative outlet in the middle of the park. He was creating chances. I think it's 2 or 3 key passes on the day, and I thought he was the one that was really making us tick in that first half.
Yeah, and I unfortunately did go off on the hour, but I think it was another really strong showing. I think Maddison, unfortunately, he's picked up this injury. Let's hope it's not serious, but I think he's another player in pretty good form at the moment. I think he's been playing quite consistently well for the last few weeks, getting regular goal contributions and actually stepping up for the team. And he gets a lot of criticism as well for one of the players who goes hiding, but I think recently he hasn't, especially in these Europa League games. He's been fantastic, I think. And this was no different. A brilliant goal, brilliantly timed run, which he's been doing all season. And I think he's been timing that run to perfection. Brilliant, as you say. It's a brilliantly timed goal it's like a world-class moment from a player we know has that in him. So that was fantastic from James Maddison. Did it as well just before that he scored, but unfortunately on that occasion he kind of put it over the bar. Could have done better with that one. And I think I agree. I think he was dropping deeper on occasion to kind of set the tempo. But when he was in the final third, I think he definitely looked one of our most creative kind of outlet and the one that could provide that magic.
Brennan Johnson up next. Sim gives him a 7. I gave him a 7. I think you've done Madders dirty here to give him the same rating as Johnson, to be honest. I think Johnson does very well to get that header at the back post to put it in the back of the net, but apart from that I don't think he had too much of an impact, to be honest. So I think Brennan Johnson, credit to him, 17th goal of the season, puts us 1-0 up in 40 seconds, but I mean apart from that I expected a lot more from him going to attack that fullback, and I don't think he made one dribble throughout the whole course of the game.
I think what I gave him a bit of credit for, I thought his pressing was pretty good. I thought he won the ball high up in a few situations. Obviously, was in the right place for the goal. Really good header. And I actually thought he was impacting the game kind of off the ball quite well. And I did want him to come off, to be honest. I thought Odobert on the right could have really gone at them, but unfortunately, the way it all happened, he had to stay on and play on the right-hand side. But I thought he got a good goal, and I thought I think he was a bit more involved in this game potentially than others. But yeah, I agree. Could have probably done a bit more with his dribbling. But I think a lot of the time when he got the ball, he was winning free kicks and he was pressing and winning the ball high up and setting up moments. So I thought that was all right.
Richarlison up next, out on the left wing. 7s all round for Richie. And yeah, look, brilliant assist, great header, puts it into a dangerous area where Brennan Johnson obviously finishes it with a nice header himself. And look, I thought he was causing problems. He was being aggressive up top. 2 key passes on the day. I still think, like, if you start with Odobert and Tell from the off, I know it didn't get better in the second half when they came on, but I do think, like, if you start with them from the start and they attack the space and they're feeding off that initial energy from the fans, I think it could have been better for us. I think Richarlison did all right. It wasn't, great by any stretch of the imagination, but he did a job.
Yeah, I think he was pretty good. Obviously, I think you could argue his inclusion was justified with the assist in the first minute, and I think that was the plan, really. Get the ball to him, get the delivery to Porro to the back post, get it on Richarlison's head, and either him can score or he can set one up, and that's exactly what happened. So I think that was the plan, and it worked to perfection immediately. I actually think his hold-up play and his ability to link the play was a lot better than I give it credit for in this game. Although I was a bit frustrated with some moments where he could have really gone at his fullback. He could have really gone for goal and created an opportunity or had a shot. And there was one moment where the shot was weak, went straight at the keeper. Another one where I think his cross was blocked for the first man, where there were chances to hit men in the box. So definitely had a couple of frustrating moments. But I think overall, it was a pretty solid showing from Richarlison on that left-hand side. And I think the plan, why he was in there, I think happened in minute 1. So fair play.
Dom Solanke, Sim gives him a 7. I gave him an 8. Really aggressive showing from Dom Solanke, and I thought Not like maybe previously in the last month or so, or since he's been back from his injury. I thought his hold-up play was a lot better in this game than it has been previously. Scores the penalty, really calm as you like, sends the keeper the wrong way, and he just slots it in to the middle, like left of the goal. And look, really aggressive display from the front. Maybe could have done more in terms of getting in goal-scoring opportunities and goal-scoring positions, but I still think like he had a major impact on that team yesterday.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I was saying, he can. The Bodo defenders do struggle a bit physically, and I think we definitely saw that a bit yesterday. And I think Solanke, there were some occasions where he was second favourite to win a ball, and he would just body the defender out of the way and win it and drive us up the pitch. The only disappointment, I guess, was he wasn't getting on the end of too many things in the box, and he wasn't kind of looking like he was going to score in open play, which he had a couple of moments. There was one moment Bissouma wins the ball really high up the pitch. It falls to Solanke. He's bearing down on goal, and it just never looked like scoring. His shot gets blocked, and it goes for a corner where, if he's just had a bit more quality about him, he can create an opportunity from it. And I think he had a few moments like that where maybe taking too long to have the shot, or maybe a bit too selfish and things like that, which a bit frustrating. Didn't maybe use the most of his physicality in the box. I guess you could argue the players didn't aim for him enough in the box as well. But it's what he does. He occupies defenders to draw attention, and so other players get the benefit. And I think that definitely happened yesterday. And credit to him for the penalty. Coolest man in the stadium, just slots it nonchalantly past the keeper, just waited for him to move, and he just took it so confidently and unbelievable composure. So yeah, he gets a lot of credit for that. It's a fair play.
In terms of the substitutes, Baptiste Tell came on at half-time, 6s all round for Tell, and I was really excited when we made the change because I thought Tell, should have come on and warranted to come on, definitely with his skill set in terms of being able to be direct and have a go at your fullback, but we just never really saw it in that second half. Bodo dominated the possession, what you say, 71% possession or something that second half, and you just never really saw Tell in those opportunities to really go direct and bully that fullback. And it was just a bit of an anonymous performance.
I felt like he was stuck too deep because I think because the whole team were deep, every time he picked up the ball, it was like either on the halfway line or like in his own half. And I think there were some moments he did quite well. I remember he gets the ball under pressure and he does a ball roll and a pass into Decky in centrally and gets us on like a transition. But I just felt like he was never, as you say, he was never really picking up in the position to really drive at the Bodo defence kind of in their half, because a lot of the time he was just picking the ball up way too deep, and that was a shame. Unfortunately, I don't think individually it was his best game, but I think off the ball he was definitely helping the team and made sure nothing was coming down that side, to be fair.
Decky up next, 6s all round for Decky, and we're just ever since he's come back from injury, we just haven't seen him at close to his best, and I think this was no different, to be honest. And look, he came on, he put himself about a bit, but there's just little quality about anything that he's doing at the moment, and it was about hit and miss in terms of his physicality. Sometimes he was getting brushed off the ball, sometimes he was winning that physical battle, but you expect more from Decky.
Yeah, and I think there were some good moments when it come to him shielding the ball from Bodo players, getting us basically to go forward and on the front foot, and maybe he kept the ball in a moment where some other players might have lost it with his physicality. But when he got into the final third, unfortunately, didn't have the quality that Maddison's been showing in recent weeks, and especially at a moment right at the end of the game where he kind of either should have laid it off for someone or should be getting that shot on target, puts it wide and misses that opportunity to take a 4-1 lead into the second leg, which was a massive shame. I don't think it was a stinker by any stretch, but we know he's capable of so much better, I think, Decky.
And Wilson Odobert, 6s all round for Wilson. Again, like you expected him to have a lot more impact when he had, team forward line, not really attacking those spaces out in the wide areas. We earmarked like that space a really key area for Spurs to go and do the business and maybe take the advantage, and he just wasn't able to do that.
Yeah, obviously came on the left-hand side. I really wanted to see him on the right just because I want him seeing just purely use his pace to attack that Bodo player, get to that byline and cut it up back on his strong foot. I think cutting inside and doing all that kind of stuff at that moment was probably working against us, but it wasn't. Didn't happen, unfortunately. He played on the left. And I felt too often he would get the ball and kind of either look for the pass to Udogie on the outside or maybe look inside. And there was one moment he even passed it and gave it away really sloppily where he should have found, I think it was I think it was Decky in the middle, but he ends up giving it away. Never really had the confidence to just drive at his fullback and create space and take people on. It seemed as though he was playing it safe a bit too much, and maybe that was instruction with the game. Kind of, you didn't want to give the ball away too much, but I felt like there should have been more caution to the wind with those wingers.
And finally, Ange Postecoglou, 8 all round. Look, it's in terms of the starting lineup. I think in hindsight, when you're looking at it, I think good decision to play Bissouma alongside Bentancur. I think it was a bit of a mistake not to start with Tel and Odobert, to be honest, because I know they came on in the second half, didn't really do much, but like I said before, I felt like they would have really fed off that energy from the start, where we started off in a million miles an hour, and I felt if we had those kind of dribbly wingers on the wing in the first half, when we were really on top, when the fans were in full voice, I felt like we could have probably ended that game in the first half, really taking the game to them. So I felt like that wasn't the greatest decision. However, he starts with Brennan and he starts with Richarlison. One ends up with a goal, one ends up with assists. So how much can you really complain with the starting lineup? So I would say that. I would say that the changes that he did make throughout the game didn't really have too much of an impact on the game. But one of them he was forced into with the Maddison injury. I think Solanke as well. Did he go off? Solanke went off with an injury as well. So I think some of the changes were forced upon him. But the good things is that we're taking a 3-1 lead over into the second leg into Bodo, which is credit to him and the team. And the way that he gets it, I mean, it'll be hard not to get a team up for a European semi-final, but he set the team up in a really good way, playing Bissouma and Bentancur sitting, and I think the team really benefited it from him. So I thought he managed the game all in all pretty well, but just a few things that maybe could have been done different.
Yeah, I agree. I think the lineup was actually really good from him, in my opinion. I think you could say, well, on the pitch, he had a plan. Clearly, he had a tactical plan going into this game, and I think it really paid off, especially early on, getting that goal, getting that assist. And I think fair play to him, because no one would have said that those changes would have made a positive impact, and they did. And I think that was kind of threw everyone off, but I think it was a kind of a plan that worked, in my opinion. And I think fair play to him. I think the changes were really positive, especially the Bissouma one. Where it's not maybe so good, I thought second half, at 3-0, could he have made... I think, look, I was actually watching him on the touchline. There were moments he was like, come on, press higher, be more aggressive, and he was getting really frustrated.
Well, that was particularly in the latter stages of the game, where they were just passing it around their defence, happy and content.
He was like, go after them, and we weren't doing it. So I don't know if we sat back purposefully, but I do think in general it was much more of a controlled performance. That was on purpose. I think the fact that we kind of were making sure we just had Bodo at arm's length, but also whenever we did go forward, we looked threatening, we looked like we could score whenever we went forward. I think that kind of making sure that we had control over that game was quite purposeful for a lot of it. Although I would say the last 10-15 minutes, we did just see the bit of control. We did obviously could see that goal really sloppily, and I also agree that the subs, not totally his fault that they were forced upon him, but the impact they had should have been a lot more, especially the game state that it was. We should have been doing a lot more, I felt like, with the players we had on the bench. So that was kind of disappointing. They should have been making a lot more of an impact. And also the fact that the con of having Richarlison and Solanke start, especially when Richarlison goes off half-time and Solanke gets injured, is that for the last 15 minutes we didn't have that focal point, and that did kind of go against us a bit. Whereas if one of them doesn't start, you have one of them to bring on later on, and you can have that for 90 minutes. So that was maybe a con of starting both of them, albeit having both maybe was a pro in that first half. I think overall, 3-1 going to a second leg is positive, and the fact as well, even in that game, we should have had the game dead and buried, and the game should be on beyond all doubt. Unfortunately, we did concede that goal, which I don't think is due to a tactical thing. It's just one of those things where the players have to take a bit of responsibility for that goal, I feel. But I think overall pretty well managed.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is our player ratings from the 3-1 win in the semi-final.